Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to share the stage tonight and to share our evening together here in the spirit of 76 Speaker Series. I don't remember 76.
Are you flexing? What are you saying?
Maybe a little. But I'm looking forward to remembering this celebration.
Yes.
So before we get started, I've been asked to give a little bit of a disclaimer and read some of the small print, and it is as follows. I want to start with an acknowledgement and a reminder that Feeding America, Second Harvest, and the Center for Community Solutions were all nonpartisan organizations in fact and in reality. And what that means is that we're not going to shy away from talking about how government may impact some of these issues and the choices that can be made about these things. What it means is that we're going to tell you to vote, but we're not going to tell you who you should vote for. It also means that nonpartisan organizations like all of ours look at policies and at issues not based on who brought them forward, but on the merits of those policies and those issues. But we will certainly get involved in conversations of consequence across communities in how our public systems can better meet the needs of our communities. And I think that's a lot of what we'll talk about tonight.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great. So, thinking about the themes that you shared about choice, tell us a little bit about your choice to join Feeding America and what brought you to this work.
Okay, so it feels like it would be inappropriate for me to suggest that it was my choice. I felt called to this. Most people aren't aware, and we don't have enough time for me to share all of the details related to this journey here. But a few facts that might be relevant, and there's some people that I know out there who may have heard it before, but I have no consciousness of being unaware of hunger in America. When I was a little girl, I remember going to one of my friends' houses, and her mother was chiding them, you better eat that food because they're hungry kids in Africa. Mm-hmm. And I heard that and I thought, wait, why is she saying that? And then I heard it in other situations too. Mm-hmm. And depending upon which friend I was with, the parent used a different country. Your hungry kids in China, etc. My mother never said that. Because neither she nor any of us were confused about the fact that there were hungry kids right here. Mm-hmm. So it's something I've always known. So when I decided, when I was that 12-year-old, I told my father with my hand on my hip that when I grow up, I'm going to be a lawyer. And I wonder why I had my hand on my hip, but I remember it. And I think maybe I was kind of steeling myself for him telling me that I couldn't. And I was going to put on the veneer of confidence. And he said, well, of course you will, little girl. You argue all the time. That way people will pay you to do that. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
But when I thought about being a lawyer, I thought I would be a children's rights advocate. Mm-hmm. I didn't imagine that I was always good with math. I became a lawyer, but I became a tax lawyer. Even I think that's a little weird. Sorry if there are tax lawyers out there.
Sorry for all the tax lawyers out there.
All the tax lawyers. And then I was in finance, and I did litigation work, general litigation work, but I mostly focused in on financial issues. And what was the wonder is that I wasn't doing it sooner, because it's what I always thought I was going to do. And then as fate would have it, I got my chance.
Well, and we're glad that you did. Let's talk a little bit about children and hunger among children. When I was thinking about coming today, as you heard, I like data. So thinking about data and the numbers.
We have this in common.
Great. Well, you must like numbers. There's almost 32,000 people here in Lorain County that rely on SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, government-sponsored hunger programs. Here in Lorain County, 43% of those people are children. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that has always sort of frustrated me when we have these conversations is starting talking about some of the things that you referenced, the undeserving, people who don't deserve. Tell us a little bit about child hunger and families and some of those issues and how Feeding America responds.
Yeah, well, let me start by saying we have access to lots of people, so we get to ask them lots of questions, and we do lots of surveys, focus groups, et cetera. And one of the things that should make us all collectively feel good is that as a society, we do believe that children deserve to be fed.
Right.
We do. Where we struggle is with the idea that a food insecure child lives inside of a food insecure household. And that one of the best things you can do for a child is make certain that their parents have what they need to be able to support those children. So the older we get in our society, the less sympathetic we become around hunger. And we have myths, and confirmation bias is a powerful, powerful, powerful thing. So a lot of people, no matter what their politics, and you survey people, believe that that the majority of people who are on SNAP just don't want to work. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In fact, when you remove children, people with disabilities, and the elderly, that overwhelming majority of people on SNAP have at least one job. Mm-hmm. So what becomes difficult is that people will, as I was saying in my opening comments, people will say, well, I know somebody in there has to be lazy. And you say, well, yeah. But the fact that there's somebody in there who's lazy, and I won't name which one, I have 2 children, and let's just say, so one of them works harder than the other. But does that mean I'm lazy?
Right.
You understand what I mean? So people will find the thing that serves what they already believe, rather than open their minds to the possibility that maybe they just didn't understand what was actually happening. So one of the big pushes against people getting access to SNAP is that these are lazy, shiftless, trifling people who don't want anything for themselves or their kids. And I have so many people that I know and love, so many members of my family, and I have a huge family, and I go to hospitals to visit babies in hospitals. And I got to tell you, I have yet to go visit anybody in the hospital who just had a baby, whose dream for that child is SNAP.
Right.
Never met one. So helping people to open their minds to what's really happening so that we can then address in a systemic way what needs to be addressed, I think is important. And I think organizations like Feeding America and other anti-hunger organizations can sometimes find themselves in these odd loops. So the issue gets defined as we need to take fraud out of SNAP. And sometimes organizations want to say, well, wait, no. And I said, wait, so you're saying you don't want to take fraud out of SNAP? So what I say is absolutely, I want to take fraud out of SNAP. Think about how vile it is that there are hardworking people, usually with children in that household, who are doing everything that they can to make sure those babies have the food that they need. And there are other people who are stealing benefits. I'm the first person to say, let's get rid of
right.
all of the fraud, right? And then let's make sure that these resources are made available to people who need them. SNAP was intended to be temporary.
Right.
There are people who have many, many, many generations that are on SNAP. Again, they're not having babies saying, and yay, this is going to be part of my legacy. They want to thrive. They want to move forward. And we have to address some of the systems that perpetuate people staying in the positions that they're in.
Absolutely. You know, and in some ways, hunger represents the failure of all of the systems for people to be able to
Yeah.
meet their basic needs. Absolutely.
Agree.
So when we think about some of the changes in food banking and in hunger over the last 5 years, since the end of the deepest part of the pandemic, what do you think has had the most impact, positive or negative or both?
I think inside of the Feeding America Network, there's something that has always been true, but that has been unsaid largely, that needed to be said. And then we needed to live into what it meant to be what we were saying. And what I mean is, at the national organization, I remember, and there's some people from the national organization here right now, I remember we got these T-shirts. And the T-shirt said, people facing hunger are at the center of all we do. And I remember struggling to put the T-shirt on. As I asked myself, am I living into what this says? Am I earning this T-shirt? What does it mean for people facing hunger to really, really be at the center of all you do? The way that the Feeding America Network has embraced that with both hands is the proudest thing I have about having been a part of this. We have something called the Network Strategic Framework. It is the first of its kind where we are a federated network. So this remarkable food bank chooses to be a part of a collective, but I'm not the boss of Julie. We are co-equal partners with different roles throughout the country, independent 501c3s who contract around how we will show up for each other, with each other, and for our communities. It's a beautiful, powerful, powerful thing. We came together as a network and, centering neighbors, asked them, hey, what do you need? How would you recommend that we do this work? And the example I love to use is during one of the sessions that we had with neighbors as we're building out the Network Strategic Framework, the one that's just so powerful to me was when we were talking about data, which is important. And we're talking about all the things we're going to do about data and what our priorities are around data. And a person experiencing hunger who was in the room said, wait, hold on a second. So this data stuff you're doing, is that supposed to be for me? I said, yes, absolutely, for you and for other neighbors across the country. He said, well, if you want to do what I want you to do with data, you just tell me where I can find some food. And it was fascinating that it was not on the list. It was not on the list of our priorities around how we were going to activate around data. And it went from not being on the list to being on the top of the list. So that is the thing there was always intentionality around service in the network. But going from intentionality to strategy, and then to measures, and then deciding, understanding that the arbiter of whether we do well or don't do well is actually the person experiencing hunger. It's not whether that thing made us feel good, but what, if any, impact did it have on the lives of people experiencing hunger. It's fascinating how revolutionary that has been.
And sort of going along with that theme and meeting people where they are and listening to the voice of the people who are ultimately being served, can you tell us a little bit about how evolving understandings around nutrition and health, and how Feeding America's food banks are meeting the needs of people with different, and of neighbors with different health conditions or food allergies or different preferences, and the wide variety
Yes.
of what we cook and eat across the country.
So exciting. So let me start with neighbors. So there's a report that Feeding America does at the national organization, and it's informed by work that's being done across the country, asking neighbors, asking people experiencing hunger what their top priorities are. And lo and behold, it's called Elevating Voices to End Hunger Together. And lo and behold, they prioritize their own health. I say it that way because I have listened to people who self-describe as conservative. I've listened to people who self-describe as progressives, and I've heard something that they often have in common is feeling as if they have to explain to people who have all of these chronic diseases that come along with not getting access to the nutrition that you need, that they should prioritize their health. They know the difference between a Snicker bar and a head of lettuce.
Right.
They do. Only one is available, and only that one is likely to get them through the morning. So as we identify what we do to activate with neighbors, we start with them telling us what their priorities are around nutrition. When Feeding America started, it was in Phoenix, Arizona, St. Mary's. There's a gentleman named John Van Hingel who had seen someone experiencing hunger in his community and saw a lot of food being thrown away in retailers, and he engaged with the retailer and started and coined the expression of food bank, St. Mary's Food Bank, the first one. Well, from at that time, the vast majority of the foods that we were able to provide had to be shelf stable because we didn't have refrigeration.
Right.
Right? It has long been true that a significant portion of the food that's being provided by the Feeding America Network are nutritionally dense foods. And oh, by the way, there can be nutritional density inside of a can, right? Not all things in cans are unhealthy, but now we've had investments from, I'm sure, some people who are out here in refrigeration and storage and training. And that has resulted in a significant increase in the nutritional density of the food that's offered right now. And then on top of that, food is health, food is medicine. There are so many food banks across the country who are engaging deeply in that space too. Who we have screenings at medical facilities that ask for, are you experiencing hunger, among the questions that are asked. And when they say yes, we often have a partnership through which we can start providing foods that that person needs as medicine for whatever conditions they have. We have beautiful outcomes all across the country, and it's really powerful. So Feeding America is investing in being an even bigger force in ensuring that people have, they sometimes call it prescription or RX, et cetera, but called different things in different places. But when a doctor says to you, you have type 2 diabetes, and without this food, this is what's likely to happen to you. And when that person can hear it and not be able to do anything about it, versus when we as a network get to be that partner with that person who positions them to be able to act on the advice of that doctor, it's just powerful.
So many partnerships in our understanding of how all of these issues weave together, and how, I mean, food can be prevention in many instances.
It most certainly can.
It's powerful. And we have some amazing partnerships here in Northeast Ohio between our health systems and our hunger
a
network.
place called Cleveland something here? It's a medical facility. Is it a clinic?
Right, something like that. Right.
Yeah.
You may have heard of it.
I've heard of it somewhere. Yeah, oh my goodness. I mean,
Yeah.
Ohio is known for its remarkable medical facilities here,
Right.
iconically so known worldwide. So when you take the power of organizations like and Cleveland Clinic, it's not alone in its excellence, by the way, in the state of Ohio. So you take that partnership and then other partnerships with other remarkable organizations and match that up with food banks and then match those two things up with people experiencing hunger. Oh my goodness, the opportunities are beautiful and powerful.
That's right. So I started my day-to-day. I've had a good bookend of a day, sitting on a panel talking about social drivers of health to the group. I'm hoping I'm going to get the name right. The American Medical Facilities Association professionals. I don't know. I got it. IMFP. These are like the engineers and the architects and the people that do the site planning for health facilities.
Okay.
And a big part of that conversation was actually about the space planning for food and healthy food being available within medical systems so that people don't even need a prescription.
Yeah.
They just need a point in the right direction. And that's an area where our communities, I think, are leading the way
Yes.
in recognizing that.
You should be proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you had mentioned the strategic framework. I understand as well that Feeding America has a bold goal for 2030. Can you tell us a little bit about the bold goal and if you think we can make it?
Well, I know we can.
We've just got to choose,
Will
right?
we choose it?
Right?
Will we choose it? We can cut food insecurity rates in half by the end of this decade if we chose it. We can. And it does require that we address some things at the systems level. And, I heard a lot, I hear, in fact, a lot of conversation about systems change. And sometimes it, instead of being galvanizing, it can be isolating. Well, let me talk about what I mean when I talk about systems change. Like, we have systems right now in this country that make it likely that what people get is what they have is what they'll always get. Like, we have, and maybe everybody's already aware of it, but have you heard the expression benefits cliffs? Yes?
Well, I have.
I'll bet you have. So that you have a situation where you say to people, on the one hand, you need to do better than you're doing. And then you also say, if you get a $1 an hour raise, you lose 100% of your child care.
Right.
All at once. We should not have a system that says, I cannot afford to get a raise.
Right.
We don't have a sliding scale with benefits. We have a ladder with these big gaps, missing rungs. They're beyond the reach of people. So it stands to reason that you're sometimes in a ditch you can't get out of because of the way that we built the system. We say to people, you shouldn't aspire to live in public housing. And then we say you can't save money for a down payment for another house. Because if you're saving money for the down payment,
Right.
you get kicked out of the house
Right.
where you and your kids lived. Right? I've had good conversations. You talked about being nonpartisan.
Right.
May I talk about that a little bit?
Please.
I've had great, rich conversations with Democrats and independents and Republicans. And the thing that they all seem to agree on is that the system as it exists isn't working. Right? More important than those three camps is that people inside of the system are saying, this is not working.
Right.
If we decided between now and the end of the decade that we were going to address benefits cliffs in this country, If we decided that we're going to create sliding scales, I believe, well, I know because I've had these conversations in Washington and in state houses, that there are a lot of people who want to make some of these changes. If we chose to actually do those things, the positive ripple effect would just be absolutely remarkable. And I hope we choose that, right? I really, really hope we choose that. I also hope on the nonpartisan thing, I was going to say, there's some things that just should not be political. And some of it is, right? And I understand some things are inherently political. There's some other things that are inherently not political, and we've somehow found a way to make them political. SNAP is an example.
Right.
SNAP was not political for the longest time. It wasn't. Yeah. And now, oh no, I'm not supposed to be in favor of SNAP. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, like SNAP, let's talk about SNAP a little bit longer. SNAP, for every dollar invested in SNAP, the return is sometimes, depending upon the year, up to $2 of return inside of a community. There are over 200,000 retailers, many of them inside of rural communities who have significant percentages of their purchases are SNAP, right? So let's say you're in a place, and the data would show this. Let's say you're in a community where the only store in your community or anywhere near where you live has about 40% of its sales are SNAP-related purchases. And that is in fact true in lots of independent retailers and rural retailers. What I wonder is, does that 60% understand that if that store loses 40% of its sales, you don't have a store?
Right.
So sometimes I feel like the math isn't mathing. You know what I mean? We're
Right.
So we are hurting ourselves collectively by demonizing certain parts of our society.
Right.
Instead of addressing at the systems level the things that will cause change to happen. And when you solve for hunger, you're solving for thriving communities. It is, in fact, one of the things that makes all boats rise. All boats rise. No community is better served by having more people experiencing hunger inside of it. Every community is better served by having fewer people experiencing hunger inside of it. People show up differently at work. Children show up differently at school. The likelihood that people will be involved in the criminal justice system decreases. I mean, it is a powerful place to invest energy and resources. And if you do it for no other reason, be selfish. Whatever it is you care about, you're going to get more of the stuff you care about when you do this. It doesn't matter who you are. It is just one of those kinds of things.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and, thinking about the benefit cliff and some of these choices that people are facing who are just trying to get by and having to do that, make the choice between taking a raise or working more hours. And if they do that, their family's going to lose something that has a value of hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every month to them. I mean, what choice would any of us make if that's what we were trying to do? And in some ways, what we're seeing here in Ohio is that things are getting more difficult, not better. We have expanded work requirements, coming in where in order to get your hunger assistance, you have to be working. Well, if you were working to that degree, you wouldn't need the hunger assistance in the first place.
Let's talk about that one more time.
Yeah, let's talk about it. All right.
All right, so there's an expression I picked up in law school, a paraphrase on what my...
Keep your questions coming. I see some coming now.
Great.
Please.
This is a paraphrase on what my legal writing teacher said. Legal writing teacher focus on issues like the whole semester. And I thought he was just lazy. Now, he might also have been lazy, but he actually had a reason why he did it. And at the end of the semester, he explained how powerful it is to be the one who defines an issue. So I have since had my own paraphrase, and I say, she who defines the issue wins the argument, right? So if you were to say, I am against work,
Right.
right? And sometimes some of us in this space who are so well-meaning, it sounds like we're saying
Right.
we're against work requirements. The issue with what got passed is not that it incentivizes people to work, is that it actually has the opposite effect. So that because the bureaucracy around it is so onerous, it is often the case that you could lose your job while going to show that you had a job.
Right.
Again, one of the systems level things. So if we work together and said, all of us should have an aspiration that people who can work do, there's some beautiful things that happen. I mean, when my parents stopped supporting me and I was supporting me, that was a beautiful feeling. And then, rather than at 13, I was really grown when I got to the point where I'm not asking them, could you
Right.
please pay my bills? I want that for everyone. I want that to be available to everyone. If we were serious about that, we would then put in place things that incentivize people to actually work. And we'd make it easy for them to show that they're doing it. The way that we've done this really just does not do that. So I hope we find ways to talk, to have more than little sound bites about
Right.
these things, and to have more than a freeze frame where somebody's saying, I'm for work, and the other person saying, I'm not for work. I want to get rid of fraud. I want to keep fraud.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Who wants to keep fraud?
Nobody wants that.
Fraudsters? I don't know.
Yeah, right. The fraudsters. The fraudsters. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I mean, in your earlier comments, you made that comment very clearly that the fastest way for a child or for a family to no longer be a family or a child facing food insecurity is to have family sustaining wages and to be able to afford and to have the access. You know, there's a lot more that goes into it than just the dollars and cents. But these
But that's
systems,
a good place to start.
It's a good place to start. That's right. These systems that are being set up are about compliance. They're not about innovation. They're not about feeding people. They're not
Yeah.
about solving
Yeah.
problems. Right?
And
So-
Feeding America is nonpartisan. I keep saying I'm going
Right.
to talk about it and I don't talk about it. So here's how I describe what it means to be nonpartisan. So we are not neutral on policies. We study policies. We talk to people experiencing hunger across the country, and we are here to serve them. So the way I describe it is, imagine that this water represents people experiencing hunger. Feeding America is well positioned to know who they are,
right.
to know what their aspirations are, to know why they're in those lines at food banks and pantries, to know what it would take for them to leave those lines. So we stand next to them. And when others who self-identify as Republicans are inclined to do the things that will help them, they won't have to wonder where we are because we're not going to move.
Right.
And when someone who would self-describe as a Democrat wants to know where we stand right there. We stand right there. And I've been in Washington, and it was funny, one that always comes to mind for me, I won't name the person, but I am in somebody's office and the person is, or let's say it's a Democrat, and I'm having a conversation with this person, and they said, Claire, you really ought not to go talk to those Republicans. And then I smile and I go, you're about to go talk to the Republicans, aren't you? And I'm like, yes, yes I am. Yes, I am. Should I tell them you said hi?
That's right. Well, and thinking about choices and thinking about to your earlier comments about the pandemic, you know, we've seen what happens when we make the choice. We saw that when the child tax credit was enhanced, child poverty fell by half.
Yes.
When Congress allowed it to expire right back up again. We've just lived through this sort of grand experiment about what happens.
We saw when we gave people more access to federal nutrition benefits, that they made better and better choices because they actually had the wherewithal to make healthier choices because they could actually afford the healthier choices.
That's right.
I mean, it's remarkable.
And often worked more.
And worked more. Exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
the results that we want.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk about policy all day.
What
all
do they
evening.
want to talk about?
I know,
Emily?
there are good questions in here.
here we go.
So we're gonna shift gears a little bit, and I have a question about farmers, which we're here in Lorain County. There are a lot of people that are engaged in farming and agriculture here. Okay, and this question says, American farmers are struggling. They want handshakes, not handouts. Food banks can play a critical role, thank you, in stabilizing things for farms. How do we highlight, lift up, and support more farms with our food bank connections?
Oh my, what a gap we have right now. By the way, let me first start by acknowledging this is a profoundly important gap and we need to close it. I was talking about it at the reception. I put out a statement in support of farmers on National Farmers Day. And when I was putting the statement of support out, I had someone say, well, you're not asking for anything for Feeding America. I'm like, oh, you must not understand how this works. Our whole society cannot thrive without a thriving agricultural farmers, ranchers, growers, and producers. We need to invest in their viability. So on the local level, I find, like, in fact, out here right now is evidence, I find that people like Julie and her team do a remarkable job of engaging very actively with farmers. On the national level, not so much. We should do a better job. We just had a fly-in. In fact, Julie was at the fly-in, right? Not long ago. There's not one farmer with us.
And a fly-in, meaning flying into Washington, D.C.
We flew into Washington.
Right.
So we flew into Washington to talk to members of Congress.
Right.
We asked people, the national organization said, hey, everybody, why don't we all come to Washington on the same day and let's go advocate. You'll talk to the people who represent from your districts. We did not bring one farmer with us. And what you were just saying about farmers is true about people experiencing hunger, right? And I think there's sometimes a disconnect with farmers on that subject. So farmers, I think, understand in their bones how important it is to them to do good work, hard work, and earn good return. I'm not so sure we do a great job in this country of helping farmers to know that's exactly what people experiencing hunger want too. That's exactly what they want as well. And when we pull those two things together, how powerful that is. I went in, I don't know whether the farmers here are very familiar with Senator Bozeman out of the state of Arkansas. He leads the Ag Committee, and he's one of the principals who helps to lead the Farm Bill. And again, a sign of how we're talking past each other so often. I was in his office, and he had just had a bunch of farmers come and see him in Arkansas, and there was a lot of notoriety around it. It made national news. When they came and they said, look, we are struggling and we've got to make some changes. And he wrote a paper to explain what was happening with farmers, and he provided it to people, so he made it public. And I took that paper with me when I met with Senator Klobuchar, who's a Democrat from Minnesota. And I explained to her, this is so important, Senator. You have a bunch of farmers in the state of Minnesota. I've heard you talk about being committed to farmers. This is what they say they need. I hope you're going to be committed to this, right? So fast forward the next day, because again, I go to talk to Republicans, I go to talk to Democrats. So the next day,
We'll talk to anybody.
Yes. Next day I was talking to Senator Bozeman. And I told him, Senator, thanks so much for that paper. I just had a great conversation with Senator Klobuchar about it. And he went, you what? I said, well, no, I think it was so important. He said, no, that wasn't a Feeding America message. I said, oh, yes, it was, sir. Oh, yes, it was. So acknowledge we're not doing it as well as we should. Acknowledge to do it better, just like with neighbors, with people experiencing hunger. We ought to be convening with farmers as a collective. We ought to be asking them, what do you need? We ought to be using everything we have, all of our platforms, all of our influence, to advocate on behalf of the things that farmers need. And vice versa, farmers ought to be advocating on behalf of what people experiencing hunger need as well. And they don't have to happen necessarily at the same time.
Right.
You don't have to wait quid pro quo. Right. I'm saying that everybody thrives when we work together, and we could do a better job. And we haven't announced yet, but there's a new chief government relations officer joining Feeding America, the national organization. And she's a person with deep roots with farmers, has worked on the ag side, has worked with produce. I probably should stop saying all those things, because then I'm going to be announcing who she is by default. And one of the things that I and the incoming CEO have asked of her to ask that she prioritize is this very thing. We will be better at this. We will be better at this.
Yeah, identifying all those shared interests, figuring out where we align.
Yes.
Yeah, so I have some questions from food bankers and from volunteers.
Oh, really? Okay.
All right, so
Is this a speed round? I don't know how to do fast.
that's all right.
Okay. All right.
This one's from a food banker
Okay.
who says, it's been 7 years and my mom still doesn't understand what I do and why I have so many meetings. What does it mean to be a food banker, and how do you explain it?
Oh, well, I can't explain all those meetings, because I got to tell you, we're a meeting kind of network. I can tell you.
We like to be in community, right?
We do. Well, number one, I would hope that you would tell your mom at the highest level that because of what you do, those choices that I mentioned earlier, there's so many people in your community who don't have to make them. That because of the work that you do as a food banker, by bringing food together in the community to a centralized location, a warehouse, if you will, and then by engaging with these rich panoply of partners all across your community who also want to see your community thrive, that you're part of a systemic way of addressing needs today for people in your community. And that because of the work that you do, there are moms who are going to send their babies to bed tonight with full bellies. And there are grandmas who are going to host Easter. That's the most important thing I would be telling them. That's who you are. That's what you do. You are remarkable humans. And the greatest honor of my professional life by far has been that I have been associated with the likes of you.
I'm going to ask you a tough one now from a volunteer.
Okay, volunteer.
A volunteer. As a volunteer at the food bank, I notice that we throw away many products because of dented cans. We follow the procedures established by Feeding America. Many food stores sell cans that have that level of damage. Can we readdress what product can be salvaged? We had another question about expiration dates as well.
Okay. All right,
that seem tied together.
All right, so
two different handwritings.
All right, got it. So let's start with what the national organization does. One of the important responsibilities that we have is to cultivate national relationships. Now, each food bank also has local relationships with national partners. Well, we, as a national organization, a network, we have relationships with every major retailer in the United States of America. And one of the reasons that they trust us to have often an exclusive relationship with them is because we hold firm to very, very strict standards around food safety. Now, the reality is we've all seen the Twinkie. Some of this food will outlive the dinosaurs, right? But we're not going to take the chance. And I've heard people use in food banks, when I've done volunteering on my own, food banks or pantries, I've heard people who are leading the volunteer team say, so here are the rules. These are rules on the board. And then here's the most important one. Would you want your mom to have that? Mm-hmm. Would you want your grandma to get that? Would you want your kids to have that? So I am sure, unfortunately, that there's food that gets thrown that is edible. However, if I had to take the chance, I'd prefer that the chance be that I err on the side of making sure that food is safe than that I guess whether or not it is. Now, about those expiration dates, they can't even legally call those things expiration dates anymore because they've never been expiration dates. They call them best by dates now, I think, legally. Let me tell you what I call them. I would like you back in my store by.
Okay.
Because those dates have nothing, there is never a date, that stamp is never on an item that is no longer good after that date. That is actually not what it's for. It is, and in fact,
it's powerful marketing.
We have great partners in the food industry, and they know I'm not lying. They know that's exactly what's going on. And it's been difficult to actually get it was hard fought to get it to say Best Buy. It used to actually say expired,
right.
But now it says best if used by, best used by, et cetera. The unfortunate part of that, the most unfortunate part of it, is the flip side of what we were talking about before. Those are related things, which is people often believe that they get what they deserve. So if I'm a person experiencing hunger and I get what I believe to be expired food, it sends a message to me sometimes about how valued I am in society. I really wish those stamps were not on those cans. I really do. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us, especially like those volunteers who are out there. Volunteers, by the way, we have over 1 million volunteers throughout our network. There's no way we would get nearly the amount of food out into communities. 6 billion meals in a year, by the way. Give yourselves a round of applause. You are amazing. There's no way that would happen without the volunteers. It simply could not happen without you. So not only, though, do you provide sweat equity inside of food banks and pantries, but you're also remarkable ambassadors. So you're myth busters. So when people I encourage you to continue to educate yourself on things like SNAP and what's really happening with SNAP, on what's happening, which policies work, on benefits cliffs, et cetera, because there's a credibility that you have when people say, so now how much do they pay you to do that job? And you're all paid the same thing. And I just decided right here, because I've got power, I am tripling your salary. Well, there you go. How do you like that?
There you go.
What do you think about that? I mean, it's amazing that you would do what you do. So you automatically have a level of credibility that is such a powerful, powerful thing for an advocate for people experiencing hunger to have. So thank you.
All right, let's do a speed round.
Oh, okay, we're going to try.
Okay, we're going to try and get through some of these.
Okay.
All right. And some of these are about different strategies, sort of, how do we do it?
Okay.
Can you discuss recommended strategies to get fresh produce into areas experiencing food deserts? I know this really isn't a short answer, but I'm going to challenge you.
So, partnerships.
Okay.
most places have a church, no matter how remote it is, right? There's usually something out there. It's incumbent upon us to continue to build on the partnerships that we have and expand those partnerships across the country, and invest in their capacity. Feeding America, one of the important things that we do is we generate resources, and then the vast majority of resources that we generate are not spent on us at Feeding America. They're sent out into communities, hundreds of millions of dollars a year, in fact, sent out into local communities. And a large part of what we do, we focus in on being a catalytic force, and being catalytic includes making sure there's refrigeration down that dirt road around the corner where there's only that little church.
This relates to the next one, I think, which is a feeling that protein-heavy food should be included instead of empty carbohydrates whenever possible, specifically milk, yogurt, cheese, cottage cheese, eggs, and meat. Do you think this is possible?
It is possible, and it's proving to be difficult. But every time we survey people experiencing hunger, their top 3 things that they ask for: fresh produce, protein, and dairy. We are on it right now. The national organization has a strategy that is specifically focused on making sure we generate more of that. My next opportunity I'll have to be in front of an audience will be people who produce protein. Oh, by the way, and I was with a certain company, starts with a T, in Northwest Arkansas. Can I say Tyson? Okay, so I was with them last week talking about, I'm just being silly,
Yeah.
Tyson. I was with Tyson talking about how do we increase the amount of protein that gets into this system. And the pantries have people more often than the food banks. It's those pantry volunteers who are out there in communities and have people coming say, I don't have any meat, can you give me some meat? And who have to turn people away without what they need. And it's some of the hardest things that I've ever witnessed.
One idea, can you give us one idea for how large hospital systems can support nonprofits such as Food Bank on moving the needle on food insecurity in their communities, aside from food screenings and food as medicine? One more.
Oh, okay. Because it's a medical system, I'm trying to think about something that's bespoke to that industry. But overall, I would say for any partner, invest in understanding what's really going on in your community. Expect change to happen and be willing to be a part of that change. Don't stay on the sidelines, get in the mix of it. Those food banks that you're partnering with, those pantries that you're partnering with, they're so close to the ground with their neighbors. Ask them what they want. Ask them what they need. Feeding America is a national organization that's fiercely local, right? So that would never be a question, for instance, that I would answer for Julie. Ask Julie. You know what I mean? She'll have an array of answers, but money's always good.
Money's always good. Well, and here, our health systems here in Northeast Ohio are some of our largest employers. So let's flip it and think about employers.
Yes.
And the role there as well.
Yes.
Okay, I've participated in a poverty simulation, so have I, many, and it's so powerful. And that's an important role as well that food banks have taken on. How can we further bring these to people at their jobs or other places? Oh, this ties into the
I really like that.
Yeah.
I think that could be, so about that last question,
Yeah.
they should do
There you go.
simulators at their job. I think that's a powerful thing to do, and I've participated in them as well. And I do believe, contrary to what many tell me, I have a whole 61, almost 62 years of life that has taught me to believe in the American people. And when we know there's a problem, we really work to solve for it. So anything that we can do to help people to understand what's actually happening. It's why when COVID happened and I saw those lines on TV, I'm like, the American public they're going to step up. And they did. So I think we as a collective should continue to educate people on what's really happening, and they'll activate inside of that education.
All right, one last speed round question. Hunger versus food insecurity, which term do you prefer in 2026?
I don't like
You've
either
used
of
them both tonight.
I
You
don't like
either.
of them.
Okay.
I don't like either of them because, so first off, food insecurity as a term is a term of a term of phrase. Is that a thing? Is there an English teacher
A term of
out
phrase.
there?
Yeah, where's our English
I
teachers?
don't think that's a real thing. A term of art. It's a term of art, and the USDA, I believe, might even be the place where it started. The difficulty that I have with those phrases is hunger people can experience as a pang in their bellies if they have between meals. Food insecurity is a spectrum. And the way we tend to talk about it in sound bites actually helps to contribute to people not investing. So they say, well, you will not convince me that 50 million people in America are starving. You're like, right.
Because that's not what we're
Because
saying. Right.
That's not what's happening, and that's not what we're saying. We have not yet found language that's clear and crisp in communicating the continuum, in helping people to understand that there are these phases that people find themselves in, and that of that 50 million, and honestly, it's probably even more than that in the country, who just wouldn't call themselves food insecure. Inside of it, there's everything from an extreme side of generation after generation after generation deprived of the nutritional quality in their food that they need, that has had these significant challenges to their medical, their health, and other outcomes, and a lot of scarcity in that space. In the other extreme, you might have a person who experienced food insecurity like me, where I'm in college, I'm in law school, and I wind up with nothing to eat. I truly had not one single item of food to eat. And I had no money, so I couldn't put gas in the car. I couldn't even go home to mama, and I didn't want her to know what was happening with me. So on that side of the continuum, I access emergency food stamps. And those emergency food stamps were a lifeline for me because, like every other human, if I didn't get food, I really can't live without food. And I wouldn't have been able to make it until I actually got that check came in the mail that I would then have to walk over to the bank to cash, right? But those SNAP benefits, they literally were a lifeline for me. And it's the only time in my whole life that I've ever needed SNAP. But I desperately needed SNAP when I needed SNAP. And I was in a different place on that continuum. I hope it will work to find new language that helps people to understand the continuum that is hunger and food insecurity in the country, so that when we're trying to solve for it, we realize it's not just one it, right? So for me, the solution is something quick. For that family that has generational poverty, the solution, it probably has something to do with benefits, Cliff.
Probably.
Right? And it's something different than what it is for me. So we're doing some work in Arkansas right now, and there's some work that had been done in Minnesota before that this work in Arkansas is building from. And we're actually looking at hunger as a continuum. And we've gathered data on where people in the state of Arkansas sit inside of the continuum. And we're really optimistic about what that's going to lead. So we're working so can I then go back and say, I don't like either?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. And that was not speed.
No.
None of the questions.
And someone recently said to me, when I was in college, I was broke, but I wasn't poor. And I think that's just what you're describing.
Yes.
You know, and there's a difference there. All right, so we're almost at our time here today. This is a better way to ask this question than I would have. You are getting ready to step down.
I am.
from your role. We're like one of your last.
You are. Aren't
Right.
you special?
Thank you.
Aren't you special? I will no longer be the CEO of Feeding America as of April the 14th.
Okay,
Yes,
so almost a month,
almost a month.
almost exactly. What is one thing you would have loved to change but couldn't in your time in Feeding America?
I wish I had been more successful in opening people's minds around whom it is that experiences hunger. During COVID, I thought we broke through. During COVID, people could process, well, you can't blame him. They shut down the hotel. What was he supposed to do? It wasn't his fault. You can't blame her. That whole restaurant shut down. So we pivoted from the blame part of it,
Right.
and we activated in, so what do you do about it? And I was shocked. I am shocked when I look at data that show how harshly we judge people who are inside of the status of not having enough food. And I wonder if it's that we're scared. I wonder if it's that we think, well, if there's not a thing called earned hunger, then that could happen to me. If I can relegate it to people who don't work hard, I work hard, and therefore that's never going to happen to me. I don't know why it is, but I wish I had been more successful in helping people to open their minds and then open their hearts to people experiencing hunger even more so. I wish that I would never want COVID to happen again. But there were definitely streaks of silver inside of those dark clouds. And among them was that. And I'd love to see us sustain that.
How quickly we forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but when we were talking before, you said you asked 3 questions. My organization has 5 things you need to know every week. And you told me that one of your questions is always what brings you hope. So let's end there.
That's right.
What brings you hope?
Those young folk.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It happened today. It makes me want to, honestly, it makes me want to cry when I think about it. That all the young people that I met, having conversations with people who are deciding that what is not good enough and fighting for something that's different. You know, I don't even quite know what it was that happened that led to the walkout, but I gotta tell you, there are young people in this room who said that is not good enough. And then galvanized all of these people, and they just walked out the building. Inside of our youth, society has not taught us that we can't. So we try. And every iteration of youth keeps doing it. And we do make progress. So I'm always hopeful when it comes to kids. And if I ever need a little inspiration, again, there's some people who may have heard me say this before. I'll tell you one of my favorite things to do. I love to go to a park and sit on a bench and close my eyes and listen to children playing. I love to hear them as another kid comes onto the playground, and it often happens. And they tell them, come on over here. I love to hear them laugh. I love it when I can tell that somebody fell down and some other kid who didn't even know the kid says, hey, you need help? I'm filled with hope. and youth inspires hope in me.
Wonderful. Well, Claire, thank you so much for your time here with us this evening and for joining us here in Lorain County in Northeast Ohio. Appreciate your words of wisdom, the hope that you've given, and reminding us that we have choices. We all have choices, and we have that power to make the choice. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.